Okay, so again, the Chinese, they like taking pictures. We've seen a lot of business coming up, but can the Chinese relate to these pedestrian streets? They're not the type of people that really, are they really coming out and enjoying the evening? Or are they more into sightseeing? Or have you ever had any Chinese have you ever had to take any Chinese guides around? Or?
Yes, I did take Chinese guys around, but normally they were not regular tourists. They were some business people
Okay,
attending
yeah,
certain
normal.
company on business, but
Normal.
I would normally show them around since they receiving party like this or that Russian company doing, or maybe some joint company would ask me to tour them around the city. So they were interested to see all the highlights that we would show them when riding around Moscow. Seeing people, Chinese people outside, I always notice them still taking pictures everywhere, still outing, no matter whether they're used to spending lots of time out.
Is there a Chinese community here in Moscow, or? Because every city around the world kind of have a Chinatown. Do you think they have it?
There is a Chinatown here.
There's always a Chinatown somewhere.
Well, it's a Chinese community. Definitely, we do have it here in Moscow. I'm sure. I have not heard of it, but I'm sure that since we still have lots of Chinese people both studying here, living here, or coming here, yeah, there should be one. As for activities, Chinese people like to come here when having some national holidays.
True.
And their holidays now are also celebrated rather widely in Moscow. Like this year, Chinese New Year
Yes.
was really a great big celebration arranged at different locations of Moscow.
In Moscow?
We had lots of nice bright installations dedicated to Chinese New Year. We celebrated it really. Russian people really enjoyed during the celebration. So we had lots of Chinese tourists, plus lots of Russian visitors to Moscow, plus locals who all went out enjoying all the beautiful decorations and celebrating the way anybody likes to celebrate different holidays.
Now I'm going to ask you, because you've been living here for a while. Wow, is that ever beautiful, isn't it? Let's have a look at that. What are we looking at now again?
So these are the old factory buildings, which are now offices and restaurants, which is a common adaptation for the old factory buildings located in the historical center or at some nice locations and which look nice. So
I'm going to ask you a question because you're living here. I don't know if you pay such attention to cars, but do you notice many different Chinese new energy vehicles? You see them?
Most people notice it, that now more and more cars that you can see in the streets of Moscow are Chinese-made cars. Yeah, definitely. The market of cars has radically changed.
Wow.
Since many brands left us,
Okay.
they have already been substituted for by Chinese brands.
And and they're electric cars, some of them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you been in one?
No.
Really?
No.
We'll have to get you in a car one of these days, okay?
In a tank.
Now, why are we hearing music outside of this building?
It used to be a church.
Okay.
And now it has also become a church. It is returned back to Russian Orthodox Church. But for many years, before about like 10, it had housed the Museum of Moscow Museum. So under Stalin, like at the early years of development of the Soviet Union, over 30 or more % of Russian churches were torn down.
Wow.
And those which remained were normally not used as churches, but as different, absolutely different institutions. So this, being one of the numerous Moscow's churches, was changed into the Museum of Moscow, which moved out to another nice location, to the historical buildings, still centrally located. And the church was given back to the state, and now, like all the preserved churches, it has daily services.
So now this street is decorated with more restaurants, kind of for people to be on?
Yeah.
And what are we looking at right there?
Just a minute. Speaking about this street, you should have seen it in winter time. For over 4 months, it had beautiful Christmas ornaments, Christmas decorations, being one of the nicest locations with all the rich Moscow's Christmas decorations. And then they changed a bit for Chinese New Year. Also, there were some details typical for Chinese decorations for the New Year celebrations.
But why is that? Why are they adapting and welcoming more Chinese traditions in this city? I'm curious. Is it because there's more Chinese influence or more Chinese business, or both of these countries have been
Probably, well, both, and also showing how friendly Russia is towards China, and maybe also attracting more Chinese tourists, which do not come in such big numbers as they did before 2020.
Well, I think a lot of countries, their tourism numbers are probably challenged now. Of course, everybody would like to be back in 2019 and have those numbers. And certain markets have really changed. People have viewed the way the governments dealt with even the pandemic that make them, for example, we had a Serbian guy on our tour. And I know Serbia took a very different approach during the pandemic. And a lot of actually creators went there to Serbia because it was a country that was actually open during this pandemic. So it's really interesting to see that. And carry on, thank you.
So you asked about the building in front of us.
Yes, this one here. Let me show it to everybody.
One of the 7 Gothic-style skyscrapers that were built in Moscow in Stalin's time. So he pursued several aims, building such Gothic-style skyscrapers. The first one was to celebrate 800th anniversary of Moscow.
Okay.
So he decided to build 8 buildings of that kind.
I remember this.
One for each century of the city's development. Another aim was to catch up and overtake with the United States.
Okay.
Famous for the American skyscrapers of the 1930s that all people in the world were inspired
Rockefeller
by.
Center and Empire State Building and all that kind of stuff.
And another one was to change and create Moscow's unique skyline with their spires.
Tell me about this. What have we got here?
These scooters now have become so very popular amongst all the locals. From one hand, it's really a very convenient way of getting around Moscow, but from the other hand, it's a big headache, They now introduce more and more restrictions in terms of the speed, in terms of who can hire them, like children under age are not supposed to take them anymore because they ride too fast and cause too many accidents. And it's the problem all over the world is the same.
The big fun is over, but you can still have a little bit of fun. Okay, I get it. Yeah, we all go through that. Regulations now. That is an absolutely beautiful building.
Which one?
This one right ahead.
Yeah, they're all very nice. Actually, we can walk to a nice pedestrian bridge from where you'll be able to see really nice views.
Okay.
To that building, to the Kremlin. So shall we walk there?
Yeah. And what you can do is you can keep some of the surprises, because I'm going to hand this camera off to Canal on the second part. And you and her can go for a walk, and she can capture some stuff. So you don't have to show us all the big stuff.
No.
Oh, you want a Canal film?
Sure, why not?
By the way,
She will train
probably can be interesting.
She will what?
Train.
Yeah.
Can be interesting to know that little chapel.
Where that?
Over there, you see the gray one with the cross.
Yeah.
Was built to commemorate Russian warriors, grenadiers, who perished in the war with Turkey defending Bulgaria. It's interesting because we have lots of churches built as memorial churches commemorating some very important victories of Russians.
Yeah.
This is just one of the examples.
Just one example.
Further down that street is the church which was the first built in such a way as a memorial church, yet in the 14th century, to commemorate victory over Mongols.
So much history. How do you remember all of this?
Well, having such an experience of working with a
It's
tour
just
guide.
patience.
No, it's years of experience.
So tell us while we're walking here, somebody wants to come to Moscow. Now I used to tell you how I used to find tour guides. My wife, the last time we would come on the platforms, and when I was in Yekaterinburg, when I was in Novosibirsk, I was in Brno or Tomsk, we could hire a guide. But my wife went to find these guides, they were tour guides that you could hire, and she said the company that used to do it took Russia off the list.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Sanction, man.
so how do people find you when they want to go for a fabulous walk and talk like this? How do we find you?
Unfortunately, I still, with my friend, trying to get our Telegram channel really started.
Okay.
We are really very slow on that, but we try to work ourselves. Many of us do that, so we are available either on Facebook or like
Okay. Do you have a Facebook or a Telegram or?
yes,
Okay.
I do.
When you go to
but,
Russia, you
but
have to
we
have
still have lots of companies. Some of them have not survived pandemic and then
Yeah.
the present years, but still there are many who still organize tours. So that's why I'm really surprised that you failed to find a guide in Moscow.
No, but it's hard now because we are almost disconnected from this country. We don't want to be, but we are, like, with Frank today. Frank took out a bank card today that he can make a payment. I can't, even though I
Yeah,
have
that's
a
another
great bank
problem,
account, I can't make a payment. Actually, so I'm,
Unfortunately, that's like that. And
but then again, let me tell you,
yeah,
I actually find that kind of a little bit cool because we block out and gives us more time to discover this country without a lot of interference, we'll say, from other tourists that could make the restaurants too busy that we can't get a seat, make the parks too busy, or make so this is a really good time to come to Moscow,
in terms of what?
just as a
Yeah,
trap
time.
for tourism.
You mean the time of the year or the situation? Or
Because
what?
of the situation, there is not so much people.
Not so much people. From one hand, probably you're right, but just partially. The matter is that we feel like we do have more visitors from different regions of Russia to Moscow.
Ah, yeah.
Or maybe I just started noticing Russian visitors since I also started working with Russian tourists. Before that, I only had foreign customers. That's why I didn't pay attention to that. So maybe you are right, less people, maybe it's not that much less. Really hard to say. From my point of view, just maybe, well, less than, of course, before 2020, but not so few.
Well, I think when everything is calm, Moscow's going to really benefit here in the next few years. It's going to be, if everything calms down and we get through these difficult times, I think Moscow is really setting up for a beautiful future.
Hopefully, yeah. I want to hope so, and I want more and more people to come and discover how beautiful Moscow
is.
is. Just have a look at this beautiful building.
So what kind of building would this be? Would this be
Built at the late 19th century. Actually, you can even see the year of its construction, 1890. It was actually doing with the trade missions from different countries in the late 19th century.
Wow.
So it's just being restored. You see, it's really freshly looking, which also confirms the fact that Moscow has been maintained in a very nice way. They do make lots of efforts to brush it up, to keep it really nice and clean, which was not so before like 20 years ago or earlier. Now it has become really a very nice European city, clean, well maintained, and very safe as well.
Today a gentleman told me that if you buy a new energy vehicle, you can actually almost park for free. Did you know that?
If you buy what vehicle?
These are like this car. Haval is a car that is a Chinese brand.
Yeah.
And they said that parking is usually about $5 an hour down here. And they said if you have an electric car, it's either free or it's almost free to park your car now.
Yeah, I heard that. I'm not sure how free it is. I mean, probably still.
Probably there's a catch, right? There's always a catch.
Maybe. I don't have an electric car, so I cannot confirm, no, I cannot deny. And definitely they try to give some privileges for people who have environmentally friendly cars, that is electrical cars.
Now tell me, how you're a very, very knowledgeable lady, and knowing all this architecture, all the places, where can somebody learn if they wanted to really learn about this city? Where can they learn from?
Well, when being trained as a tour guide, there are several places where people can study to become the one.
Okay.
There are even some universities that have departments where they also teach some have some city study or whatever. And in Moscow, even at schools, I'm not sure about the school program these days, but when my daughter started at school, they also have Moscow study subjects. As a
Wow.
part of their just general school education. By the way, this is one of the new fountains in Moscow. And nowadays, Moscow is one of the top probably 10 cities in the world with the biggest number of fountains. And since this fountain is located in the smallest square of Moscow, which is Stock Exchange Square, the building which is under restoration, presently houses the Chamber of Commerce and the Industry of Russian Federation, but it was built in the late 19th century as a stock exchange,
Oh,
which
wow.
gives the name to this small square, which is bounded by the beautiful buildings of the late 19th century. And on
Wow.
that side are the buildings that belong to the Ministry of Finance. And the fountain having a shape of having round shape, it is nicknamed by Muscovites a ruble. So, the queen,
So meet you at the ruble.
yeah.
Got it. Okay, I see what's going on here. That is
And
so
here
interesting.
is one of the, not one actually, the oldest marketplace of Moscow. So called the guest yard, after the big market in Red Square, which appeared in the early 14th century. So later they also opened the market here. And before the 18th century, it was just a ground surrounded by the wall. Then the building was built. So before the middle of the 1990s, it was an open space inside it. And the walls at the beginning, like at the 18th century, when it was a marketplace, housed offices of different merchants who had their business at this market. The lower floor and the basement was for the storage.
What would be
Yeah.
up top there?
Yep.
Would it be observation or we don't know?
No, not an observation. By the way, this building, now in the 90s, they covered it with a glass roof and turned it into a nice atrium
Oh, really?
where lots of different fairs, exhibitions are held. And once in a while, like normally each year, the head of the country has his press conference here. Like the last year, so the last time it was like maybe half a year ago.
I'm going to show you something here. See, coming from China, I can recognize these vehicles. This is a very popular brand here in China. You can see how you know they're new energy vehicles is if they don't have these pipes on the back, right? So these ones down here.
Exhaustion pipes.
So you can come see behind here. I'm just excited to see these cars. Now this would be considered, inside it's very beautiful. They would have like seats and you see these little cameras on the side here?
Yeah.
And this little system up on the front here, this little system on the front, that's called a LiDAR. It's radar and GPS built in one. So this is a very smart car. So what he's seeing inside, he will probably be able to identify every single building of what is here.
Of course, there is a guy inside.
Yes, of course. And but an absolutely fantastic car. I just wanted to show you. Because also, what I wanted to learn about Moscow is because I live in China, and this is a country that actually our political vision of China is to not get involved in political things, okay? And what I mean by that is the government still wants to do business a lot with Russia, and they don't talk about politics. They do business, and
The government of which country? You mean?
of China. And Russia together, they know there's a conflict, but they don't want to be involved in the conflict to damage the relationship. So why you're seeing so many of these cars come on the streets here that are Chinese automobiles is China's just saying, let's do business. And a lot of the foreign cars, it's very difficult now, right, to probably buy a foreign car here, or maybe the market's finished. Have you noticed, living here, is there certain brands that you used to like and you used to buy that you can't get anymore, or?
In terms of the cars,
Not cars, but let's just say you go to the,
generally about those which left.
well, let's say you go to the grocery store,
Oh,
right?
the grocery
And you
store.
might like a certain brand of, I don't know, for us in Canada, we like Heinz ketchup, okay? Is there a certain brand that maybe you don't like or you miss that you can't get?
By the way, it's a Heinz ketchup, Heinz salad cream. That's what I have always missed here in this country since I tried it in England years ago.
Okay.
Somehow they didn't supply Heinz salad cream here. But as for the other sauces, I think we still have them. I
Okay.
didn't pay attention lately, but I think Heinz are still represented. Maybe not because I was not interested in the sauces, not being having time to cook meat, for instance, that I normally
But
use it with.
we're not going to see a Starbucks today, right?
As for the Starbucks, they have been replaced by a Russian called just Stars or so.
Just Stars, okay, I love
not
it.
two Stars, just
But there is
well,
exactly, yeah, it's
Stars.
the same. They just change a little the logo and all.
How about Burger King? What's
No,
Burger
they're
King?
still here.
There is-
Burger King's still
Burger
here.
King are still
Okay,
here.
so
Yeah.
the Whopper still
As
reigns
for
supreme.
KFC, they have been
KFC gone?
replaced by Rostix. And Rostix is what they were together with, as far as I understand, at the very beginning when
Right.
they just were coming to Russian market.
Do you know Don Mac?
No.
Don Mac is a McDonald's in Donbass.
In
Oh,
Donbass.
really?
They call it Don Mac.
Really?
Yeah.
No,
And
here
it-
we have delicious dot, that is вкусно и точка. They
Вкусно
all
и
replaced all
точка.
McDonald's is all over Moscow, all over the country. Wherever we had a McDonald's, we now have a Russian equivalent replacement for McDonald's, which is delicious dot.
Wow. Now promise me, the young girl that we just spoke with, that you will bring her to this
Oh yeah, I will.
today. This
I
is.
will.
Oh, okay, I have to take this in. This is probably one of the most beautiful things you can see with your eyes, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to let you tell me all about
One of the wonders
this.
of the world, to my mind, much more impressive than most of the most famous, beautiful buildings of the world. St. Basil's Cathedral, built in the middle of the 16th century by an order of a famous Tsar, Ivan the Terrible, to commemorate victory over Mongols and the capture of their main city, the capital of Mongol Tatar Khanate, the city of Kazan. Since that city was captured on the Day of Intercession, a festival of Russian Church, he ordered to build a church consisting of several little churches, with the main one to be the Church of Intercession. That's what you can see in the center of the structure.
Shall we walk over?
And,
Shall we?
Yeah, we can do that. But
Let's walk
that's the
over.
way there. Yeah.
No problem.
Let's cross.
What a beautiful, beautiful church. And what a lovely day we have here, huh?
So we're lucky with the weather today. So Red Square is in front of you. Considered to be the fourth largest square in the world. Starts from St. Basil's Cathedral, this most iconic church of the country, and finishes by a historical museum at the other end.
So,
Also bound by the most famous shopping mall of the country, GUM, which is that nice beige color building. GUM.
Goom.
Not gum. There is no gum in there. Well, there is gum in the supermarket, but it's not about that. GUM is abbreviation of Russian translation of the State Department Store.
State Department Store. Still alive and well.
Used to be a department store, used to be a state-owned, now it's a shareholding, and now it's a shopping mall. So now we use GUM just as a name for the most famous shopping mall.
Now, to our viewers, what's behind the wall?
So this is the Kremlin, and the Kremlin is not one great governmental building, as unfortunately most foreign visitors imagine it to be or expect it to see. No, it's a big place. It's a town within a town, the oldest part of Moscow, which is presently, from one hand, the most important museum of the country, from the other hand, the main residence of power of Russia. The place where a president of the country works and receives visitors, delegations, and holds different meetings and most of the important negotiations.
Now, can I ask you a question? And this could be not true. It's one of those maybe imaginations.
Okay.
But is it true that there are 4 individual exits where cars can come out, where one direction it could be Putin, the other direction could be Putin, and they all kind of leave at the same time? Have you heard anything like
I've
that?
never heard anything like that.
So maybe-
Moreover, I will tell that there are two official entrances to the Kremlin only
Okay.
for all the visitors. But as for the vehicles, they different entrances or exits from the walking ones. Like this Sevius Tower is only used on some special occasions, just a few times a year. Like sometimes on Victory Day, when celebrating victory and having a parade, it can be open for the highest officials to come, out of the Kremlin. On the day of Russia, the 12th of June, when we have a major celebration first held by as an official part inside the Kremlin grounds, and then the head of the country can come out from some other people from the Kremlin through this tower. And the other tower is from another side of the Kremlin, the one that faces the garden, which is used for all the tourists, for people who work in the Kremlin, who come there for concerts. As for the cars, again, once in a while this one, and permanently an opposite side of the Kremlin, which is always used for all the vehicles to drive in. No any other tower is used for the vehicles to drive in or out of the Kremlin, just two.
Now, more questions, of course, because it's one of the most important buildings
Yes,
here.
sure.
I mean, do people kind of... now, he's not the leader of my country, but I know in our country of Canada, sometimes people wait outside our House of Commons to have a look to see if they can see our Prime Minister. Are Russians like that? That maybe they will wait to see if Vladimir will come out?
There used to be kind of a legend about which particular window in that yellow and white building with the black dome is where the president's office is.
Oh, so we don't even
I
know.
always deny that, saying that there might be one of the windows lit up just kind of to maintain the legend that he works that late and that's the window which is his office, so he's still working. No, this is just the building which is really the main working residence of the president.
But that flag, does that flag that's up there, does that mean he's working right now?
No, the flag never identifies
Okay.
whether he's in or not. We don't have such a tradition in this country. The
Okay.
flag which is here, by the way, if you look carefully, you'll notice.
a
This
bit
is
different.
not just a regular Russian
Yeah.
flag. You see it has the symbol of Russia,
Yeah.
the coat of arms of Russia, the
I noticed that.
double-headed eagle. So this is president's standard flag.
Oh,
So it's always up the building.
okay. And do we
Just
know?
identify
Do we
that-
know when he's at work?
Never know.
We just never know
know.
when he's at work.
Which makes sense, you know.
Yeah, and also I guess when, like, let's say the Chinese come. Let's say Xi Jinping comes from China. Would he be coming here? Would they be greeting them there, or there's?
No, it's a different entrance from
Different
another
entrance.
side. You see, the Kremlin has a shape of an improper triangle.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh, so now
Okay.
you should know. So this side of the Kremlin triangle faces Red Square.
Mm-hmm.
There is the third side that is round the corner of that round tower that overlooks Alexander's garden. And by the third side of the Kremlin wall, again, looking down that way, you see that round tower. So around the corner of it is the part of the wall that overlooks the Moscow River.
Wow.
So the river, the garden, and Red Square.
So-
So the entrance for all the vehicles, escorts, or trucks that need to bring something to the Kremlin grounds is at the other corner at the end of the garden, down that way that you cannot see.
Have you ever been on the other side of that wall?
Being a licensed guide, working in Moscow for over 20 years as a guide. Of course, before 2020, it was the most popular site to take all the tourists to, and then at least 3 times a week I would come to the Kremlin.
And now
Ride around the
it's
Kremlin.
closed for the moment.
No, it's still available. So welcome to Moscow. Explore this beautiful city and get acquainted with the main part of Moscow. So the main museum there, we can see some of the oldest Moscow's cathedrals. We can also see the most important museum, the State Armory Chamber, which is based on the treasures of the Tsars.
Wow, beautiful.
And at the same time, but from the outside only, we see those governmental buildings. Like we can closely see that building of Senate, that's where he works. And another one which can be seen from the riverside, which is the main parade and reception residence of the president. So there are 2 important governmental buildings in the Kremlin, and the rest are mostly like available for tourists. But there is also a part which is very special. It's a big Kremlin Palace complex.
Okay.
Partially that's the reception residence and partially a group of historical buildings.
So why aren't all these people going there to look at it?
Just enjoying Red Square, which is Isn't it red? I mean, isn't it beautiful?
It's beautiful.
You know about the name?
So, yeah, tell me, was this where they would have the
Parades, yes.
the
You
parades?
see these lines which help the vehicles to keep to the lines
I
when
see.
riding through Red Square
Oh,
on the
this
days when
must
we
be
have
wonderful.
parades. And they take the gap between the historical museum building and that part of the Kremlin Wall when riding up for the parades.
Wow.
And
You were going to tell me something before I stopped you. You were saying,
Okay.
I can't remember what you were going to tell me, but so what we should do is
so Red Square, yes, I
yes.
wanted to discuss. What do you know about the name? Any ideas why is it called red?
maybe
Communist.
Nothing.
maybe there's red in the flag. I don't know.
Nothing to do with the flag.
Nothing to
no,
do with
with
the
the
flag.
dominating color, which is presently really red. No, it's been called red since the late 16th century, and red then meant beautiful. In the old Russian language, there were two meanings of one word. Red stood for the color, and red stood for beautiful.
So beautiful.
So when St. Basil's Cathedral was built, when the trading rows, wooden ones were demolished, the square changed radically and became really nice and beautiful. And all people started finally calling it beautiful. The name stuck. But in the contemporary Russian language, we have a different word for beautiful. That's why nowadays it is translated as red, because now that word has only one meaning, which stands for the color.
Well, our wonderful guide, maybe you could, when we go back, because we're going to hand off to the young lady,
Yeah.
and you ladies are going to have a good time. Maybe, is it possible on our way back to our destination, there's a metro we can have a look at?
Yes, let's go.
How about let's do that, okay? And guys, we're going to hand the second part of this camera off to a rookie in vlogging. Her name is Kinel. I'm not sure how wonderful it is. Frank and I will give her some tips to talk, or at least point the camera and let our lovely guide talk about this magnificent city. We're blessed with the weather today. Look at the beautiful blue sky above
She will
us.
ask you your budget for doing this.
She has the budget. Wonderful. Okay, I'm excited. Because I've heard so much about the underground metro system.
Yes, let's go. I think it will be more convenient for us to take another street when walking there on the way back, so that you see a bit more. But mind, we still have lots of things which are under restoration. So some of the beautiful historical parts do not look as attractive today, but the next year everything will change and the scaffoldings will be taken off some of the nice buildings, and the whole historical center will become even more beautiful and attractive for all the visitors.
Now, I always say, we see the centers of these cities here. Are these locals that are here? Are a lot of them travelers, or most of them locals?
More travelers, but also plenty of locals. Red Square is still loved by the locals as well as by all the travelers. Many people like to come here just to enjoy the atmosphere, the vibe, and the beauty of it.
Like on Women's Day or Valentine's Day, would that be a special event down there? Or?
As for Valentine's Day, I would tell you that it's not really much celebrated here. Some people do. Some love this holiday because it's been celebrated in Russia like for over 20 years. But now it's not a major celebration, but some of the cafes have special decorations, special arrangements. Many of the hotels do that too. Still, it's really nice, very romantic to come to Moscow on St. Valentine's as well. Like this year, I happened to work with a group from Indonesia, and they stayed at the hotel where I was to meet them and went together with them for breakfast. They had a beautiful live concert, piano music, singing for the Valentines, and they had continued at that hotel all day long. Started from champagne and beautiful cakes made in the shape of the hearts. And so, St. Valentine's is still a nice holiday, even though officially it's not celebrated and not really welcome to celebrate it at schools. But anyway, most people love it and do celebrate.
So would it be January 7th is the biggest day to celebrate? Or?
Oh, well, for religious people, yes. But the major holiday, the most popular holiday, which is popular amongst 99% of Russia's population, is the New Year.
New Year.
Yeah. The thing is that after the revolution, religious holidays were prohibited. But since Christmas all over the world had been one of the most important holidays, they just shifted some of the traditions of celebrating Christmas to the New Year, and then it still remained.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you again. I'm going to show
That's
you
all right. Yeah.
these taxis here
Yeah.
are another Chinese brand. You see, there's no exhaust pipe or muffler on the back of them.
Yeah.
So these again are new energy vehicle, battery powered vehicles. So it looks like, yeah, they're embracing them well. So we're saying the
I
most
didn't
popular.
even know that
Yeah,
before
well,
you
there we
told
go.
me.
There we go. You can add that to your tour, okay?
Yeah.
You could just say, I
Especially
met.
when I happen to have some Chinese businessmen touring.
And you could just say, well, I did a tour with the great Alex from Reportify, and he told me some wonderful things. No, it's been what a pleasure, you know. I think a lot of people that come to cities and they go to these buildings and they see this, unless they have a guide like you, they're missing so much wonderful information.
Definitely.
And I can
Sure.
appreciate that area more, that the more you talk about it, I can feel the passion that comes out, and it's exciting. I didn't know what the red square
The
meant.
thing is that, yeah, Red Square, definitely it needs to be explained. But as for these beautiful streets,
Yes.
it's not only about the explanation about which building what is what. It's also to see these streets. Because when people are on their own, staying in some of the hotels, they don't know where to go. They just select some of the highlights on the map. They try to get there, not really looking around, and sometimes definitely missing all these beautiful historical streets. But with the guys, we walk them around, we show them all the most nice, most interesting parts of the city that is normally missed when they travel in a big group or when they're just on their own. And if you walk here, first of all, next year I hope these scaffoldings will be off, maybe even in a couple of months, and there is a beautiful perspective
Oh, yeah.
to a nice street. So maybe with you when we go for the next time or the second time, we'll reach that. That's a beautiful street, which is even a better example of Moscow's eclectic. From the 16th to the 19th century, all the centuries and styles are represented there. And this is another good example of pseudo-Russian style,
Wow, look at the detail in that building.
late 19th century.
Very clean. Clean and beautiful.
Yes, isn't it?
You take care of the buildings.
And you see, so here are the scaffoldings that make this street narrow, but generally, even in the very heart of the city, we don't have many really narrow buildings, unlike, say, in Paris or in all the other Western cities. One of the narrowest is like here,
Wow.
and also full of really beautiful architecture monuments, mostly of the 19th century. Another Chinese car. It feels
And that
like you're
one,
a
oh, this
fan
one
of
over
them.
here is a Chinese car.
Yeah, that's what I noticed a lot.
It's okay. Sorry, I have to bring it up.
Yeah, sure, I see. And this is what this place will look like maybe
isn't it?
next year. But so far,
Beautiful.
it's just a construction site, but everything is being done and rather fast.
Now, why so much restoration going on down here?
Because from one hand, we want to maintain the city. We want to preserve some very important architectural monuments. From the other hand, there are some spots like here, you see the developer is building brand new buildings, not really restoring something. They're just building the new expensive residences. Yeah.
Living here, I'm sure it's very expensive.
Sure, here will be some of the most expensive housing. But the problem is that even though it's within 2 minutes walk from Red Square, but no views from the windows, I don't know who will pay that much for those residences. But anyway, I believe
I'm
there
sure
will
there
be
is
some
people who will
people
pay.
here. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, this is another nice 18th century Russian Orthodox church. Also well maintained, also like all the other churches having services there. I mean, it's a functioning church. So here is the entrance to one of the metro stations.
Okay.
So
Shall we go?
we'll walk in there.
Frank the Tank, you ready?
So I think to make it quick, I'll use my ticket and then you'll pay me.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Wow, beautiful.
Map of Moscow's metro, which is, you can see, is a very well developed system. Now over 300 stations. And it's like 14 lines. Plus on the ground light metro, which is integrated into the metro. So, and unlike in London or Paris, so far only two zones. One inside the city where you can change, not paying anything extra.
Wow.
And just if you go really to the real suburbs, then it's a different price. But generally it is really very convenient, inexpensive, and very functional. Just look at the beautiful interior already up here. So we are entering the dark blue line, which is numbered the third, and they're numbered in chronology, of course.
Okay.
So the line was opened in 1938.
What's this writing here?
This is a fragment, an extract from the Soviet anthem.
Wow. So we can follow you? You okay?
Yes, I will let
Okay,
you.
I'll go.
Just a minute.
See you on the other side, guys. No, you gotta wait. You gotta wait. She'll do it individual.
So we get to all the stations on escalators, but the ones which are closer to the ends of the lines, which are normally quite shallow.
Wow, how deep does this go down?
Well, I won't speak about the length of the escalator, just the depth in meters, it's about 60 meters deep.
Wow, 60 meters.
The deepest one is around 90 meters. Here in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, they have many more which are about 90 meters deep. And then those deepest ones have two flights of escalators.
So is the reason why this was maybe built so deep also because of maybe to prepare people in case the city was under attack?
Planned in the 1930s, one of the reasons for was to make them bomb shelters in case of the war. And all those stations, including the one that we are coming to, were really used as bomb shelters during World War II.
Oh, wow.
During the alarm sounds, all Muscovites would rush to the metro stations, then the trains would stop. And the people would stay at the metro station sometimes for quite a long period of time. An interesting fact is that about 200 babies were born at Moscow's metro station during the period of World War II. And this station called the Square of the Revolution that we are going to see is adorned with bronze statues which represent all the categories of Soviet population. Like, we'll start from peaceful ones, like representing families with kids, school children, students, sportsmen, and then collective farmers, workers, engineers, and finally at the other end we have soldiers of the revolution. The station is one of the highlights. So here you see families with kids, and you see the fragments of some of the statues shy. They're rocked by people. People are enjoying doing that for good luck. Each statue which is repeated 4 times in a chain. They were real people posing for the sculptors. And we even have some stories in Moscow's article, newspapers, in the articles about some of them. All the stations are different design, different artists and architects who designed them. So this one is adorned with the statues. We have some with beautiful stained glass panels. We have some with the frescoes and paintings, some with mosaics. So they're all very, very different. And even new ones which are being built and designed these days, they all also are not just functional. They all have different design, different from each other. They can be similar, but still there would be at least some different colors, some interesting details which would make them looking different from all the others. And they still will care about how they look. It's not just very functional, well plain. No, it's always like this. I forgot to show you the nose of the door, which has nearly holes in it because
really?
people keep rubbing it all the time. That's where the tradition started. Students of Moscow's Technical University, which is one of the most prestigious universities, had a tradition to come down here to this station before taking the most difficult exam during their study, the exam on the subject which is resistance of materials, and rubbing noses of the bronze dogs, feeling warmth coming, that's experiencing resistance of materials and the increase of temperatures. They would make a wish to pass the exam. And other people passing by, seeing them doing that, they thought that they were doing it just for good luck and started doing that too. And pretty soon the tradition spread around and became one of the most famous Moscow superstitions or traditions to rub noses of the dogs at this square of the Revolution metro station.
That's very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting.
And now some people who take care of Moscow's architectural heritage, they are thinking probably we need to replace these dogs here by the plastic ones so that people rub them more and more. Otherwise, the original ones will have real holes pretty soon. They need to be preserved.
The beds.
You recognize where we are, right? So a few steps to the restaurant.
Wow, I took in a lot. You talked a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. This is beautiful.
And here now this is just a fair, but in winter time we do also have an ice rink here, which
An
is
ice rink?
free. Yeah.
Wow, that'd be
We
fun.
have the most famous one, which is in Red Square, but that is not free. Free only before like 12 o'clock shift or
Okay.
11 o'clock shift, just 2 in the morning. This one has always been free. And normally in the previous 2 years, we also had kind of rollers ground instead of the ice rink. So the ground for the roller skaters. This year I don't see it arranged here. Maybe they will do that maybe soon. But so far, just the whole installation is a fail, which functions on the weekends and the days of some public holidays. Made to match the style, like reminding of the Kremlin wall, the architectural look. Meant at first to be temporal, but nothing is more permanent than something temporary arranged. So it's been here for over like 5 years by now. But Moscow also attracts tourists arranging different festivals, different fairs, different holiday celebrations. Алло, еще приветик, еще работаю. Еще нет. Попал порвочек, что-то попал. Зайчик, не могу. Нет, я уезжаю 30 до 5.
The girls. Did you see the
Ага.
girls?
Все хорошо, спасибо.
Oh yeah.
I will buy this shit.
Huh?
And I will throw this shit because it's
So now you see all the area being barred, lots of stuff being brought. This is for the Summer in the City festival, which will continue in Moscow all summer long. But during that summer in the city, they will hold lots of different events like fish festival, book festival.
You and I we're gonna conclude. So what we'll do is we'll say goodbye to my audience, and then we're gonna hand it over to the young lady, and you guys will enjoy it. It's been a real pleasure here. I've been with my friend Frank there. Frank, what's your channel again?
my channel is Geopolitique Profonde, but
Hey,
subscribe
wait, let me give you the mic.
and like on this one.
Yeah. I've been walking around Red Square with Frank. Frank,
Yes, my channel is Geopolitique Profonde. Like this video and subscribe.
thank you, everybody. And it's been a pleasure to walk another hour in this fantastic city here. Thank you so much. So soon, hopefully, you'll have a channel or the Telegram channel.
Yeah,
And we'll-
so far you can find me on Facebook and
Okay.
it's Open Your Moscow. Yeah, but so far I say a bit too lazy. We need really to start it, to get started. Just a few posts probably there. Anyway, I plan to put more stuff on it. So you can sign up for that. And I also invite everybody who sees me to explore this beautiful city. Believe me, it has lots of things to offer for walking around, to learn, to see, to enjoy with your eyes, to visit very different spots which are very, very different, as well as all the buildings, like the style of Moscow. So, and I hope that starting from this summer, we'll have more and more tourists coming from absolutely different countries of the world, like we had in 1919 or 2019. Sorry.
Yeah. Well,
So thank you for an opportunity to show you Moscow and to
Yeah.
tell you more about this nice city.
said just like an expert, everybody. Don't forget, we'll put your information in our description. Thanks for the wonderful walk. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye bye. And here we go. So before I leave here, you had mentioned something really interesting about Chinese. What were you saying about the Chinese?
So it's not just celebrating some of Chinese holidays here widely and then making lots of different installations. This is also for convenience and show how friendly we are, how much we want to see more Chinese people here. Is that we also place lots of signs showing directions, and even in Moscow's metro in Chinese language.
Really? When did that start to change?
Well, probably about 3 years ago. For the World Cup, there were lots of signs placed both in Russian, in English, and in Chinese. And of course, they were just temporary, showing directions and so on connected to the stadiums. But now it's just for different sites, just to get oriented in Moscow easier.
Thank you. Well, a lot of China outside of China. Talk to you guys again soon. Bye for now.